Hey guys, Tim here with Two Feathers Survival. I'm going to talk to you today about something that I know I've covered a bit before, but I'm actually going to take the whole week and kind of expound upon each one of these things. And each one of these things I'm referring to are the 5 C's of survivability. Now, as much as I would love to take credit for that, I cannot. The 5C and the 10C mentality is something that was kind of created and hashed out by a gentleman called Dave Canterbury. Most of you will probably recognize Dave from a TV show called Dual Survival. He's been on a few other shows as well. In fact, he has his own YouTube channel called the Wilderness Outfitters. And he runs a school called the Pathfinder School with his brother, and I believe his dad is still kind of involved in all that. So, number one, stop by and check out Dave. Dave, in the first book that I had showed you, had talked about the 5 C's of survivability, and I've mentioned all these before. It's cutting, container, combustion, cordage, and the 5th C would be covering, and we'll actually talk about that later on in the week on Friday. He has since written a few other books, and there's 3 of them here. They're all great books. I've learned a lot out of each one of the books and thought, that's a neat way to think about things. And he's definitely building upon the knowledge. So he's taken the building block style of teaching. In Bushcraft 101, he teaches just some of the basics, how to do things. Runs a little bit deeper in advanced bushcraft. And now in his newest book, Cooking, he takes and builds upon things from the other 2 books. So hats off to him. They're great books. I truly enjoy reading his books and watching his videos on YouTube as well. I've learned a lot from Dave. In the first book, Dave kind of mentioned the 5 C's. And when I first read it, and I think maybe even he was on this mindset in the beginning, and I think many people when they read it, they see, oh great, 5 C's, get one of each and I'm good to go. And yes, for a basic survivability kit, yes, you would be good to go. To a certain extent, let me caveat this a little bit, hence all these tools in front of me. If I had one knife, maybe a folding knife in my pocket, and some version of a belt knife on my hip where it should be and not tucked away in the pack that could get lost, and I've mentioned this before, well then I've got the ability to do a lot of the basics of woodcrafting. I've got at least 2 of the hardest to create items in the wilderness already on my person, so I'm kind of ahead of the game. And that's kind of the mindset with all this. Could I, by way of either glass knapping or flint knapping, create some sort of a cutting edge in the wilderness if I needed it in an emergency situation? The answer to that is yes. However, backing up to the backyard bushcraft mindset, have you actually taken the time to learn how to knap flint or glass or whatever those items are in the backyard before you needed it in a survival situation? Most common day hikers or trail through hikers, whatever you want to call it, your occasional woods folks aren't going to take the time to know how to do that. They're going to say, nope, got a knife, I'm good to go. So that brings me to today's discussion. We all have kind of looked at different videos on how to do things with a basic knife. With that basic knife, I should know how to sharpen it to maintain the edge, have something to do that with me in my pack, and have a way to maintain what I have. Knives, all knives, will dull as I use them, so I want to minimize the exposure to that. That's why in some of the videos I've discussed, making sure that the back spine of a knife, open this one up here, that the back spine is actually sharp at a 90-degree angle. That way I can utilize that to take bark off from wood and clean off those type of things, or make shavings to do some sort of fire lighting with. If I've modified that and I have that spine at a 90-degree angles, that saves me from having to utilize the cutting edge of the knife. So you should have a basic understanding of at least how to use a knife for basically what it's meant for. It's usually for cutting, doing some sort of small chore work. Where you get into other ideas, I guess you could say, or other problems, would be special skill knives. This is a spoon. This spoon was mainly carved utilizing a hook knife, or makutagen, whichever you prefer to call it. This is made by a company from Sweden called Mora. Great knife, great steel, stays very sharp, and it gives me, since I've got the curved blade, the ability to get into the bowl of a spoon or a cup, or if I wanted to make some sort of a bowl, I've got the ability to get down in there and do that with this style of knife. Now, I actually use most of what you see here with this carving is done with just this knife. So that's what I would call a special purpose knife. That's something that I usually only use for one or two things, and if it's for fine carving, well then if I don't have that, I can do it with other things, but I'm going to have to work a lot harder to create that thing. And is what this really boils down to, folks, is the ability to make camp life easier for whatever it is that I'm trying to manufacture. All right, you've probably heard me raving on about my Tomahawk that I had purchased this year. I still haven't gotten it where I want it. It's coming along. Still kind of fighting a pretty good cold too, so I apologize for probably the audio not sounding real good today. Tomahawk. Reason why I purchased a Tomahawk was I wanted something that I could put on a pack. This is my new Maxpedition Condor backpack that could do more heavier style wood processing. So everybody says when they purchase a Tomahawk, I bought the Tomahawk or I have the Tomahawk because if I were to break the handle in a wilderness setting, I can utilize the axe head portion of the hawk to create a new handle. Yes, you can. There are things you have to know. Number one, do you know how to identify a softwood tree versus a hardwood tree? Can you readily identify it by the bark? Because if we don't have leaves on the trees, I want to know how to look at the bark and say this is a whatever type of tree. If we do have foliage, I should be able to look at the leaves that are on the tree and say this tree is a whatever, and yes, it is a good hardwood to manufacture a handle with. Here's something that I found out because I actually used this exact Tomahawk to make a spoon. The wood that I had chosen to make the spoon out of was extremely hard wood. Great. However, it took a lot of work to actually create that item. If I hadn't done that in the backyard setting first, when I got out to the woods and say, well, I need something to make my life easier in camp, and I'm going to use my Tomahawk to do that, or to simply go back to saying I need a new handle for a Tomahawk, if I've never exposed myself to that, you're not going to ever realize how hard of a thing it actually is to do. Yes, there are some folks out there that make it look very, very easy. And as in all things that look easy, they've gone out and put in the time and the homework into making it again and again and again, so it actually is an easy thing, or what looks to be an easy thing for them to do. The common man goes out to try that, and they're going to realize that it's not as easy as that gentleman or woman or whoever made it look. So practice that first before you need to do it. I'm going to preach that a lot this year probably. Another creation. This is an Ulu style knife design, which is an Alaskan style knife. This is actually a knife idea that was made by a gentleman called Ron Hood. And he came up with something that he called the ATAX. Basically is what this is an axe head or a tomahawk head that you could have in a pack or on a belt and utilize this as a kind of a one-stop shop survival tool. It's got a lot of different features on it. I'll post a separate video about just this in general, but that's something too that you could add to a kit. And again, this is a special purpose knife. This would be a great choice if I wanted to utilize this edge to create something like a bow stave or anything where I needed to have a way to kind of plane shave that item down flat. This would be a good choice for that. Apparently all my knives and tools here are falling all over. All right, another one that I want to talk about. This is a folding saw. This one actually locks. Picked this up at Walmart for about $19. Great purchase. I've been wanting one for a while. This is actually something that Orange Grove farmers, or whatever you want to call them, utilized for pruning of trees. That's kind of where this got its start. This will allow me to procure firewood much faster than if I wanted to try to use my belt knife to baton through a whole bunch of wood to get firewood. Now I've got the ability to go out, cut limbs off from trees and make them smaller without taking a lot of time and either using a hatchet or some sort of a knife and swinging it. And I don't want to say wildly, because that's one of the knife safety things. I want to make sure I'm not doing things wildly. But whenever you're swinging a knife, especially in a situation where you already might be tired because you're not getting good sleep and you're not getting the calories that you would normally get, well, that's a way to allow in some sort of a mechanical injury. Having the ability to use this and use it as a saw, this is a little bit more controlled, and it allows me to create more things faster and easier, so I'm maintaining, I guess I should say I'm not burning a high caloric content to do that type of procurement. So again, folding saws definitely have their place. Now, the thing that you need to consider, all of this stuff, especially these other specialty type items, need to go in some sort of a pack. All right, guys, well, regardless of whatever tool that we've chosen, at some point you've got to have a pack that can contain all of these items that you've chosen to carry into the woods with you. So number one, I want to make sure I've got a pack that's robust enough, that it fits my idea, that it's something I'm comfortable carrying, and that it's not going to tear out, because some of these tools can get kind of heavy. So I want to make sure that I've got the space within that pack to carry these other tools that are just going to be there to just make my life a little bit easier. Like I said, the folding blade and the straight edge should be on my belt, and the folding blade should be in my pocket. My Tomahawk can sit on the side of the pack here, and then I've got an easy way to kind of carry all this. Well, that kind of wraps up this first installment of the kind of the 5 C's deeper thought, or 5 C's expounded, however you want to kind of think of this video. If you haven't had the chance, go out and pick up some of Dave's books. I don't want to make this a support Dave Canterbury video, but they actually are very well-written books. You'll learn a lot from them, and you'll kind of see where I get some of my thought process on things that I put inside my packs, and kind of see how you apply all that together. I hope that you have enjoyed today's video. Please stay with me for tomorrow's video. We're going to be looking at combustion and some different things that you can do to take your combustion and think about it a little bit differently. And all of these tools that you have with you, no matter what part of the 5 C's that you're looking at, something that you really should weigh out before you put it in your backpack, which is here in front of me, is this tool a one-purpose tool, or this item, is it a one-purpose item, or can I get multiple either uses of that item or multiple things from that item? Kind of like when we talked in the potassium permanganate video the other day, that will do multiple things for us, so that's a good win. That's something that you really want to consider as you build in your kit with the 5 C's and go beyond that. It's a good question to ask. So until tomorrow, guys, like I said, tomorrow's going to be combustion. Learn how to make fire from different combustion things to kind of keep in your mind with that. And again, we're going to use the I don't want to have just one. I want to have redundancy built within the kit. So until tomorrow, I'll see you then, guys. And remember, keep your knife sharp. Keep your go bag close. See you then. Here's a bonus trick. So this is just a piece of foam. I keep this in the back of the backpack just so some of these things don't poke against me, but gives me a nice easy ground cover or something to kneel on too. Here's your bonus tip today. See you tomorrow, guys. Have a good one.